Yeah, thank you, Judy. So I think, as many of you longtime followers of Judy know, that I like to consider myself a friend of the show. This is my
Yes.
third time on. I think I came on once before law school. I talked about studying for the LSAT. I came on again after my 1L year. To kind of give a little 1L recap, I skipped 2L year. I don't think I came back to North Carolina much, but I just graduated in May, and I'm from Penn Carey Law, and I'm really happy to be on again. Um, to sum it all up, I've had a great time in law school. I think I've really enjoyed my time at Penn. The curriculum was challenging but very rewarding. My classmates are all fantastic. I love living in Philadelphia. To introduce myself, I grew up in Chapel Hill. I grew up in the area. That's why I'm coming back, just to help my mom and my parents for the week. I'm
What a
currently
good son.
Thank
Yeah.
you, thank you. Yeah, and I'm currently studying for the bar exam for the New York bar at the end of July, which is where I'll be working after. Well, I guess I've already graduated, but once I start work, I'll be working in New York in September.
Tell us how your third year of law school went. Was it hard?
I think it was hard, but it was hard not because of law school. It was hard for a lot of different reasons. I think, the classic saying is 1L, they scare you to death, 2L, they work you to death, and 3L, they bore you to death. I don't know if I'd quite sum it up that way, but 3L year, I was able to get involved in a lot of things. I was able to do a criminal defense clinic where I really worked as an intern for the Philadelphia Public Defender's Office, which was incredibly rewarding. I also got involved in a lot more extracurriculars. I think I mentioned this in the previous podcast. I'm involved in the Penn Grad boxing club. So I actually had a fight. I had a fundraiser boxing match in April, which was a lot of training. We raised over $8,000 for cancer research. I was going to do another fight as well against the business school of Penn, Wharton, but sadly my opponent dislocated his shoulder. So I was actually training for 2 boxing matches, was only able to do 1. That was actually a lot of work. And then I think a lot of other, I would say, administrative stuff that I was doing. I was on the board of my journal, the Journal of Constitutional Law, which I planned a constitutional law conference in January. So I think it was difficult, but it was all very rewarding, and it was difficult because of things that I took on rather than anything the school made me do. Obviously, Penn doesn't force you to fight anyone.
Yeah, boxing. Yeah, well, that's great because most of the time people gain weight during law school, and especially as a practicing lawyer, because all you do is sit and read and be at the computer. So that's great that you continue doing some sort of athletics. Yeah. So what about the job search though? Was that difficult? Because for a lot of law school grads, the hard part is getting a good job. So what was that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the job search, at least I'm speaking about doing a job search for big law, or in my case, I'm going to litigation boutique, but I would say that the search is similar. I applied mostly to New York big law firms and then litigation boutiques. It's very different, I think, than it was even a couple years ago. Definitely, I don't want to say you're old, Judy, but
Yeah,
than it
I'm
was
old.
than it was maybe 10 years ago or whatever. In the old days, was you would interview for what's called OCI, on-campus interview, in August. For me, by the time I looked for big law jobs, when I did my summer internship job search, this happened early in the summer of my 1L year. So I did what's called, at Penn, they call it PEP, but more generally speaking, it's called pre-OCI. And basically, I applied to firms June, right after my 1L year. I applied to, I want to say, like 8 firms at the time. The limited the number of firms you'd apply to for pre-OCI to 8. Was able to interview, I think, with a good number of them and got an offer pretty shortly after. So I think because of the way that Penn streamlined it, I found it pretty straightforward. I will say this wasn't the case universally. A lot of my friends ended up, maybe not a lot, but a good number ended up going to do August OCI and finding jobs later in the summer. However, now the hiring deadlines have been pushed back way, way earlier. I don't know if you've talked to anyone in law school right now, but nowadays a lot of people. So just for background, if you're applying for big law jobs, the summer internship after your 2L year is the one that's generally speaking most important, your 2L summer, and you interview for that in your 1L summer. That being said, now a lot of folks are interviewing for that in their 1L year, and I've heard of people getting offers spring 1L, spring of 1L year, which in my time was unheard of. But now this just seems to be that spring, the early birds are getting for spring of 1L year, and OCI, kind of where most of the firms do their hiring, now occurs on say May or June. I think Penn's official OCI is May after their 1L year, which to me is crazy early. And when I tell practicing attorneys about this, they're like, "When did this happen? This is crazy." So the job search has definitely changed a lot in the last couple of years.
Well, do you know people who still have no jobs after graduation?
I do know a couple. I do have some peers who are still looking for jobs. I think a lot of them are in kind of, at least coming from Penn. If you're looking for a firm job, most people will find a firm job or search for a firm job during the 1L year, some after 1L year. But if they're working in public interest, a lot of time their job search has to happen 3L year before they graduate. So I have some friends who have like a guaranteed fellowship. So if you're a public interest student, a lot of times you'll have an external source of funding or a fellowship, and then it's your responsibility to find an organization, let's say, a legal aid organization or a nonprofit who will then take you in. So I have friends who have a fellowship, who have kind of a guaranteed source of income, but they're still looking for an organization that will take them in. That being said, I'm not super familiar about like the exact mechanics or how this works, because this wasn't something I was that personally involved in.
Okay. If you guys have any questions for him about law school, feel free to put it in the chat right now, because otherwise, I assume most of my viewers are obsessed with the Dan Markel murder case. So I'm sorry, Phil, to force you to talk about this case that you're not obsessed about, but I think it would be great to hear your perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So who's LeBron Wang? Is that your brother?
That's probably my brother. That's probably
what
my
I was
brother.
thinking.
He's probably like,
okay.
he's probably messing around.
Yeah. Okay. So is your brother still hoping for court down?
No. He's currently he's at West Point. He just finished his plebe year.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So he'll be entering. Hopefully, he'll be an officer in the United States Army. Right now, he's on the swim team at West Point. He's doing really well. I think as of now, he has the highest GPA for all men on the swim team. So he's doing great. He's doing great at West Point.
Wonderful. Great job. Make family proud.
Yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Bring family honor. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Thanks for being here, Michael. He had to wear a suit and tie the first day of law school orientation, and they watched that clip. Yeah, we never had to do that at my school.
We had to wear a suit and tie. I think we had a mandatory oral argument at our 1L year for just as a legal writing and practice exercise. I think that's the only time we were forced to wear a suit in the course of school itself. So,
what about the firm you're going to? Do they expect you to dress up every day?
So I'm going to a firm called Slendigay. It's a litigation boutique in New York. It's a relatively younger firm, but I think in the last couple of years, it's really established itself as one of kind of the premier litigation shops in New York. We actually have a pretty casual dress code in office. Probably, I wouldn't wear shorts, but you don't have to wear a suit every day either. That being said, it's usually advisable because I'm working in litigation. Some days you'll have to go to court or you'll have a hearing, you have to meet clients. So usually what's advised is to have a suit in the office, but you don't have to wear a suit to work.
Okay, well, that's good. Do you get to work remotely?
At least for my summer, the policy was 3 days in office, 2 at home. I don't know if they've changed that. So it's not completely remote, but it is partly remote.
Well, any part remote is a good thing. So that's great.
I do like being in the office. There's a lot of goodies in the office, free food. Obviously, it's also a very nice office building. So I plan on going in a decent bit, probably more than I plan on working remotely, at least first year. Maybe as I get older, I'll work remote more. But at least for my early career, I think I'll probably go in the office.
Great. Okay. Well, looks like nobody here wants to ask questions about law school admissions, how to get a job.
I know that the Markel case is really, you've really
all
kind of established
consuming.
yourself as one of the premier podcasts on this case.
Yeah, I'm proud of that.
No, absolutely.
It's taken years of hard work to, because there are so many details,
right,
and so many people involved in this horrible murder. So, okay. So anyway, just to throw Bill into the fire, he gets to take a look at part of Charlie Adelson's direct examination. This is from, I think, October or beginning of November 2023. So, are you ready?
Absolutely.
So we'll just watch a little and then give remarks. Okay. You can take notes.
Okay.
Well, not really, but anyway, let's see. You don't have to take notes. Okay, hopefully this works.
And on that call, what again do you tell your mom, even with what you had told your dad the night before?
I have to disconnect the microphone so we can hear, because I don't have headphones. So, sorry, technical difficulty.
I'm going to allow him to answer the question as long as it's not going to get into an out-of-court statement. You may answer the question.
That it's not done this way. I know for a fact, and I'm 99% sure it is what I thought it was.
What was the basis for you telling your mom that?
I wanted to calm her down and tell her that I'm more sure that it's the police. The basis was the guy that sat next to us at the restaurant, who went to the sushi restaurant and wanted to eat a California roll and was real rude.
Okay. Now I want to go to April 23rd. Okay. April 23rd. Judge, may we go sidebar very briefly?
Approach.
So Frashbaum is a graduate of Cornell Law School.
Nice.
Yeah, my cousin's brother-in-law knew him there.
Oh, wow.
They both went there at the same time, and he said Frashbaum was a nice guy. So I started out having a favorable opinion of him. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for your feedback. Let's see if I can fast forward. Maybe we'll do this at 1.5 speed.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't have all day either. So.
On the evening of
Your new favorite annual appointment. Our AI-powered imaging enhances early detection.
Version of this.
the 25th.
Yeah, she drove down to where I was at.
Where did you meet with her?
I met her at my parents' building. I was downstairs.
Did you meet her around the same place that you had met with your mom after the ball?
Yeah.
What did you do when you met? Did you stay in one spot or did you go someplace?
No, we just went for a walk along the sidewalk, along the water. And we walked probably a good 30, 40 minutes maybe.
What did you discuss on your walk?
I confronted her and asked her, do you think that this is Sigfredo that's doing this to my mom? And she again said, no, absolutely not. I'm like, but come on, can you tell me? Because you guys are fighting, and I know he was behind now. What happened to me? Is this what you guys are fighting about? Do you not want to tell me? And she was adamant that it wasn't him. And then I said, well, what about Tato? What about Luis Rivera? And she said, it doesn't seem like something he would do. This is not how he would do it. She said, but he is incarcerated, and Sigfredo did bring him on. He is the one who killed Dan. Is maybe one of his people is trying to do an extortion off of something that he thinks was murder for hire, because whoever it is writing this thinks it was a murder for hire, which it wasn't. So I opened up that possibility. And she said, well, probably not. But she said, it could be. It's probably the police. She still was like, it's the police, but it could be a copycat.
What did she tell you that she would do?
She was going to call the number. And I was like, you haven't called yet. And she said, no, she hadn't. So I'm like, can you please call the number and see if you know these people and see if you can get it to stop?
After you did it, how long were you with her this evening on this walk where you're having this discussion?
I mean, it was probably 30 minutes there and 30 minutes back. And we sat for like 10 minutes. So I mean, it was over an hour for sure, hour and a half.
When she left, did you say in South Beach?
Yeah. And I tried to get her to call the number by telling her, like, my parents are going to go to the police. Like, they are going to go if you don't give them some peace of mind and find out that, confirm for me.
By the way, this is April 25th. Is that the last time that you saw Catherine Magbanua in person?
Yes.
Now, after you meet with her that night, do you meet with your parents again?
Yeah, I went over. My parents were actually at my sister's apartment, which was a few blocks away. So when I got done there, I sat for a little while, and then I went over to my sister's apartment.
When you went to your sister's apartment, was she there?
No, she wasn't.
And who did you meet with?
My mom came downstairs. My dad stayed up in the apartment because the kids were sleeping.
Why did you meet with your mom alone outside of the apartment? What was your mom and dad afraid of?
I think what they didn't want was Wendy coming home and then starting to question what's going on.
What did you tell your mom when you met with her?
I told her that I talked to Katie, and she does not think that it's Sigfredo, and she still thinks it's the police, and that she's going to look into it on the chance that it's a copycat, and it's a second layer of extortion.
Now, April 26th, the government put in Exhibit O, which is a call between Sigfredo Garcia and Catherine Magbanua, and they put in a text message, which is P and Q, which are text messages between them. You recall that?
Yes.
And I know you weren't privy to this in real time, but those calls and text messages show that the two of them are fighting still, right?
Yeah.
And as a result of that, strike that, Your Honor.
Okay, sorry, we're muted. Okay, so you just said what?
A lot of leading questions, it seems. It seems it seems like the prosecution's letting him
letting him
letting him guide Adelson around.
Yeah. And also, to give you more background, did you hear about that bump episode where the undercover FBI agent went up to Donna with a piece of paper on the street? And that caused them to have a flurry of phone calls because this person was demanding $5,000 from her, saying that my brother Tato, he's incarcerated and he hasn't been helped like you guys have been helping Katie, because the Adelsons had been giving her about $1,000 a month in checks from the Adelson Institute, starting in September after Dan was murdered, when she didn't even work there. So, okay, so this is all new to you.
This is all new. I have a very, very basic understanding of this case.
Okay.
But
okay. Well, what do you think about Charlie's credibility so far?
I think in terms of it's kind of a little bit hard to read the body language. I think given the speed of I think we're watching at 1.5 times. I'm not sure if this is just a function of, it just seems like he's talking faster because we're watching on 1.5.
Maybe I should blow it down to 1.25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He talks fast.
Yeah, I think he I don't know. I think his body language, he looks relaxed. He doesn't. I think based on probably the 2 or 3 minutes of what we're watching so far, I'd be inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt. That being said, I am a little bit concerned about kind of his attorney. You said your brother-in-law's classmate.
My cousin's brother-in-law was his classmate.
I see.
At Cornell.
Yeah, it does seem like, I don't know if this was caught. I don't know if we're recording, but it seems like he is really directing the testimony a lot, which is what you're not supposed to do in direct examination. You're supposed to let the witness kind of tell the story, which I do think is concerning. It seems like the lawyer is kind of kind of drawing the narrative more than Charlie is. So that does kind of weaken his credibility a bit, at least in my view.
Mhm.
Oh Lord.
Okay. Well, okay. So people want to let you know that Katie also got breast implants a few months after Dan Markel was killed. And so Charlie said that he paid for half of the implants. Apparently, he had some sort of connection with his plastic surgeon who is known as Dr. Boopner. I think his mom probably went to this same plastic surgeon. Yeah.
These guys, they really know everything about these about the characters.
Yeah, exactly. So you're dealing with a very knowledgeable audience.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you're all far more knowledgeable than I am.
Okay.
on this.
Well, sometimes it's good to get a
Yeah.
sort of a more layperson type of perspective, or plus you are legally trained. So
the implants, but that came out in the testimony, or this is or this.
yeah, investigators did a thorough forensic accounting analysis of her bank records plus the Adelson's records, and saw that there's this huge influx of cash
Oh, I see.
after Dan Markel was murdered. Suddenly Katie had this pile of cash, and she was trying to act like she was what do you call it, like a bottle girl for nightclubs.
Oh,
That's how she got so much cash. But those clubs were not very prosperous. There's no way she could have made so much money in such a small span of time. So that was an issue more at the first two trials, because by the time of Charlie's trial, Katie had already been convicted. And then she finally decided she was going to give some proffers and cooperate with the state. So she did ultimately testify here. She was still pretty wishy-washy and evasive, but I think the prosecution still got enough info from her to convict Charlie.
Oh,
yeah, because she was kind of like, she was the go-between between the shooter, Sigfredo, and Lewis, his friend, plus the rest of the Adelsons, or should we say Charlie?
I see. I see.
So, okay, thank you. Oh, what's this? Sigfredo does it? Does it?
No,
he did. Yeah, he did, because he had beaten up somebody with a pipe or something, I think, when he was a teenager, and he set a building on fire. So, yeah, so he did have some history of violence. Yeah, he had a lot of emotional stress. Okay. Let's see. June testified that Charlie said he paid for one of them. And actually, I do think that's true, because from what I recall, the cost of that Katie paid for the implants was only about $4,000 or $5,000, but I'm sure it cost more than that. So, Charlie being a cheap person, I can see him only wanting to pay half. So who knows what the truth is. But they did get info from Dr. Rudner's office too to confirm that. But that's not an issue at Donna's trial either, whether, Katie got a breast implants or not. So, okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sigfredo is the actual shooter. Okay, so let's get back to this then.
During those calls, what is Catherine Magbanua trying to get Sigfredo Garcia to do?
She wants him to call the number.
Now, the next morning, and this is 10:30 a.m., you have a call with your mom. Do you recall that?
Yeah, what date is that?
April 26th now.
Okay.
And you talk about whether she feels better about the things you told her last night. What were the things you told her last night?
I told her that it's the police and that you're not going to be harmed. You're not in any danger. And my mom was hung up on the fact that the person was ratcheting up their threats, making deliveries to their apartment, telling them that they're going to be fucked if they don't pay up.
And there's some discussion about the letter being written like a girl. You remember that?
the beginning part of it was like a girl. The second part sounded real tough.
And so what did you mean about the beginning part of it being written like a girl?
If this guy's saying that he's a Latin king, I can't imagine a Latin king writing "you don't care" as a phrase. It doesn't sound right. Doesn't mean it's not a copycat, but it doesn't sound like that's who it is, who she thinks it is.
At the end of this call, and this is R again, around 2 minutes in, you say, one, they weren't the same person, without a doubt. Listen, I know. I actually do know how these things are done. And that was the same thing that I said. It is not done like this. Your mom says, yeah, that is what you explained. And you say, no, it is 48 hours. You recall that?
Exactly, yes.
When you say they aren't the same person, what are you saying?
I'm saying it's not the same people that extorted me that are extorting you. It's clearly not the same as the first extortion.
And when you say it's 48 hours, what are you referring to?
I'm referring to what happened to me on July 18th when I was told you got 48 hours or we're going to kill you.
We then go to State's Exhibit S, which is later that same day. And you learn that your dad didn't go to work that day.
Yeah.
Why were you upset about that?
Because I knew how this extortion was affecting them. I mean, my dad's probably missed 2 sick days in the last 20 years, and he's afraid he's going to get killed in the parking lot of him walking into his office because he's getting extorted by some Latin King gang member at this point, and he's afraid to go to work. So even though they're telling me they're okay, I know when my dad's not going to work, there's something seriously wrong.
And your mom asks you whether you ever checked the
Things that are different, like I keep telling him, like this is the police, you're not in any danger, and she's fixated. And I understand, so they're older, and someone's sending a letter to the house saying you're going to be fucked if you don't pay up. They're scared.
You say 7 minutes and 18 seconds into the call. It's not like, oh, we'll get one of them and the other one will start paying. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What are you referring to?
That's what my mom's theory was, is that they're going to get her and they're going to hurt her, and then someone else, and then they'll go to someone else in the family, and then they'll start paying them.
You then say, first of all, they don't give you a number. I mean, everything is so traceable. They also weren't disguised. Again, you say 10 seconds later, this is not how it's done. What are you reiterating over and over and over to your mom?
Is that these people aren't hiding who they are. For 2 years, I was not given a name. I wasn't given phone numbers. These people have traceable devices. They're not hiding. It's not done like this. This is different. And then they kept saying, well, what if you're wrong? And that's what kept me looking into it.
Then we go to T. And by the way, T, just to be clear, S was a call with your mom, and that call is at 4:00 p.m. It lasts 15 minutes long. And then T is at 4:33 p.m. of the same day. And this was the first call you had with Katie after you met with her, right?
Yeah.
Again, Katie is talking about a client and property, right?
Yes, she is.
And she asks you for a number. Did you have the number on you?
No.
How were you going to get the number?
I figured I'd just call my mom up and see if she had the phone number. I'd get it for Katie.
And on you try to get the number from your mom, right?
Yes, I called her.
And did your mom have the number?
No, she said that she had given it to me.
Everyone okay? Technology. Okay. Let's move on to W. Actually, we'll skip W. Now we go to the next day. The next day, you have a call with Catherine. This is X. You have a call with Catherine Magbanowa at 10:42 in the morning. And to kind of spur your memory so that we don't have to play it again, this is the Drake call.
Oh.
Do you recall that call?
I recall it.
Okay. And during this call, there's some discussion about helping her out with a vacation. What was that about?
She had asked me, and it's on the wires before the bump. She wanted to go down to the Keys, and there's a place that I would stay at that I have a connection to, and I could get a room really inexpensive. So she had reached out to me whether or not I could call up and get that connection for her. And I said, you know what, I'm going to pay for it for you. So I said, wherever you go, I'm going to take care of it.
Judge, can we briefly go sidebar again?
Very briefly. Please approach.
Okay, any comments or thoughts now?
Yeah, I think we discussed while we were muted. It seems like he was very amused by the mention of that previous call. Kind of wondering why that is.
Because he's a pompous ASS. Like he treated his whole direct examination and cross-examination as his time in the limelight. I hated his murky, swarmy attitude the whole time. So that was a day I was actually in Tallahassee.
Oh, wow.
But I decided to hang out in my hotel room and watch it live.
Oh, wow.
Because, I didn't want to give him the thrill of seeing a big audience.
Mm.
And it was actually pretty uncomfortable after a while sitting in the courtroom nonstop because the benches are like hard wooden benches. Right. And, I can't, it must have been so uncomfortable for Dan's parents and his sister and the family friends to have to sit there constantly for 2.5 weeks or so. Yeah. So anyway, Charlie has this very pompous, entitled, privileged type of attitude. That's my opinion. So it just came off as so rehearsed.
I see. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like that kind of attitude would make you unsympathetic to the jury. But it seems like this guy, we have one person who at least seems sympathetic to Charlie.
What, his paid attorney?
No, Bubby71, this commenter?
No, he's talking about Sigfredo, this poopy person. Yeah. Okay. Well, we're kind of focused on Charlie today, but thanks.
Yeah, I don't think he comes across as particularly sympathetic here in his testimony.
Yeah. And of course, like Renita is saying, we didn't talk in code. So a lot of these phone calls between Charlie and Katie after the bump, when the FBI person went up to Donna, they started using these like code words, thinking that they were so smart, talking on the phone to each other. Now, like I mentioned, Katie and Charlie had already stopped dating within, say, like a couple of months after Dan was killed. And Katie continued getting paid from the Adelson Institute. Donna Adelson wrote a bunch of checks, and some of them were sequentially numbered, but they were given fake dates, to make it look like she was getting paid every couple of weeks. Oh, wow. But she actually wrote out batches of checks at the same time to give her, and Charlie gave her the checks. So she didn't actually get the money from Donna, but, clearly there was like a line of communication going down the line. Yeah. So let's see. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. Adelsons relied on their powerful friends and their cash to cover their very inauthentic, entitled criminal selves. Sadly, it worked for a long time. Yeah. Good commentary. T. Cancella, I think she's a pediatrician in South Carolina. Oh, okay. So she's also addicted to this case too. So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
It's a nice community.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments so far?
No, I think that.
Yeah, a lot of people are totally into this. Okay, we'll continue. I hate the way he keeps blinking and giving these puppy dog eyes. Did you notice that? Like he just like sits there, like you're supposed to feel so sad for him.
Now, one of the calls that's in evidence but was not played yesterday
Oop, too fast.
is Y, and that's a call to your mom your mom calls you at 12:25 p.m. On the 27th. There's some discussion about Miami Heat tickets. Do you recall that call?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Rather than play the whole call, let me just ask you some questions to see if you remember it.
Sure.
Do you recall offering your parents Miami Heat tickets?
Yeah,
Playoffs.
I knew somebody who wanted to sell their tickets, so I wanted to see if they wanted to go.
And they did not want to go, right?
Yeah, they didn't want to go. And
why didn't they want to go?
They were still really upset about being extorted and the letter that came to the house on Monday. This was the day after my dad took the day off of work and did good work.
And again, what do you repeatedly tell your parents on this call?
I tell them that it's not done like this, that this is basically, I tell them it's not the same people and that you have nothing to worry about.
Do you talk to them about the location they live and the timing of when the bump occurred?
Yeah, this is that call.
And what do you recall telling them about the location where they live and the timing of the bump?
What I was saying is that they live in a very small, safe area. For somebody to do that in the middle of the day, it makes me think that it's even more the police, because it would be so easy for them to get caught doing something. It's almost like these people don't care about getting caught.
Okay, so let's briefly recap before we go on. The letter comes on the 25th, right?
Yes.
And no one makes any payment.
No.
The bump had happened on the 19th and a week before, and no one made any payment, right?
No.
What's the next escalation point on April 28th? What happens next? What do the police do next?
The guy that came up to my mom on the street and wrote the letter to the house is now looking for her at work and calling her place of work and calling the office, looking for her.
So, and this is, I believe, State Exhibit 107. Okay. Now, you're not on this call, right?
No, I think the guy called Erica.
Okay. And what happens after this call?
Is this the one where the undercover calls Erica?
Undercover calls Erica, and does someone call you after the undercover calls Erica?
Yeah, he said to Erica that I gave Mrs. Adelson some important papers last week, and she knows what this is about. She needs to call me. So then Erica called my mom and told her about this person that called the office, and my mom was scared because now they're tracking her down at work, and she called me up and she was really shaking.
Now, during this period of time, what had Catherine Magbanua been telling you about her calling the number?
She said she called the number, and she called another number, and nobody picked up.
So your mom calls you, and that's Z. That's Z, correct? That's Z on April 28th at 9:42 a.m. And why did you tell your mom during that call that it's odd that the guy called the office? What was odd about it?
It was odd that he called the office because Katie had been telling me she's been calling the number. So it's odd that the guy's not picking up, but yet he's making phone calls.
After that call, there are a series of calls where you try to reach Catherine Magbanua, right?
Yes.
Why are you trying to reach her?
Because I just heard that the guy's calling the office, and she said she'd called and the guy wasn't picking up, or she may have told me it was a non-working number. And I was driving into the office at the time, and I had limited time to try to handle this before I got into the office and became really busy.
Call AA. They played. The state played for the jury. That's a voicemail where you say, "Hey, it's me. It's important. Call me. Bye." Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Now, BB is on April 28th at 10:43 in the morning, and she calls you back, correct?
Yes, she called me back.
What does Katie, if you remember, and I can play it for you if you need it, what does Katie first tell you about the phone number when you call her back, when she calls you back?
She says it's a non-working number, and that it's a Gmail number, and it's been called 100 times.
What do you understand her to be saying when she says it's a non-working number?
That, like, when you call a number, rings, and then you hear like a long beep, and no one's able to pick it up, and it's not an active line.
Later in this call, BB, she then tells you that she's been calling the number and it just rings. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
When she tells you that, how do you feel?
I know she's lying to me because it's either going to be non-working or it's ringing. It can't be both. And the guy's calling the office. So.
And at that point in time, I think Miss Kappelman termed it as things got stressful. You started to get upset with her, right?
Yeah, I know she's lying to me.
And as you're finding out that she's lying to you, what do you start to think?
I start to think that this could be Sigfredo, and that's why she's kind of covering and not wanting to come meet me when I keep asking her to come meet me. I think she found out that it's him, and she's just BSing me.
Now, at some point after.
Okay, so my commentary is that yes, Katie did lie to Charlie in some respects because she really did not call that undercover's phone number. She was just trying to get Sigfredo to call. Like nobody wanted to call the undercover guy Sammy. That's what he said his name was. But it kind of goes to show how scared they all were because they knew they had been found out, that the investigators are onto them. Also, this is kind of crazy, but he's trying to lay the blame all on Katie. And he's saying that he was scared because Sigfredo was the big bad, scary, violent gang member who killed Dan Markel on his own accord, because they all wanted to extort Charlie and his family for money. But it's stupid because in the Dolce Vita conversation, which Charlie had with Katie, while they're so concerned about the bump, he started talking about Sigfredo and said stuff like, hey, he's not mad at me, is he? It's not like I started dating you while you guys were still together. There's some talk there where it's clear that he's fine with Sigfredo because at that point, Katie had gotten back together again with Sigfredo, who is the father of her 2 children. So it just doesn't make sense for him to say he was so scared of Sigfredo when they recorded him talking about Sigfredo.
Did Sigfredo and Katie ever testify in this?
Well, Sigfredo, unfortunately, it's so frustrating, but Sigfredo has always remained silent. He didn't even testify at his own trial. And so it's so frustrating because we wish that Sigfredo Garcia would come clean. But on the other hand, he did so many drugs and he was drinking up a storm. He doesn't seem to be the brightest guy.
Right.
So at this point, does he even remember going to kill Dan?
Right.
Yeah. So what else was I going to mention? Yeah, I mean, this is just Charlie spinning it, saying like, see, Katie was lying to me. She continued lying to me. She deceived me.
Yes, I'm saying I watched Charlie's testimony like once a month since the trial. She's so ridiculous. I love it when a defendant testifies at a trial. I will say I think he seems well prepared. It seems like his attorney did a good job preparing him to testify. As someone who is not very knowledgeable about this case, I think he comes across as like pretty coherent narrative on this direct examination. That being said, I haven't watched the cross or anything of that sort. But at least from what I'm seeing right now, it seems like he's very well prepped for this.
Yeah, I mean,
direct.
Just on a superficial level, I do like his outfit. I'm sure they consulted, with specialists, like what color should he wear? What kind of suit should he wear? So that's a nice suit, nice tie. He looks presentable. He's coming across sort of as the professional periodontist. Yeah, and he's not like shaking or freaking out or hesitating or looking shifty or whatever. But I think he seems a little bit too coherent, and that's what a lot of commenters said, like he seemed too well rehearsed, because most people, if they're telling the truth, they don't remember all these little details and, be able to quote verbatim, like, oh, Katie sat me down on the bed and she said, oh, I'm so sorry, I ran my mouth too much. And so they went off and killed Dan or something. I mean, yeah, I think he comes off as a little bit too slick.
I see.
But that's because I know the background.
And I think I assume he's been well prepped by his attorney.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You want to do a quick reintroduction?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually not a lawyer yet. My name is Bill Wang. I just graduated Penn Carey Law. So I'm here kind of talking about my experience and then commenting on this excerpt as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Light blue tie, matching shirt does look
the navy suit looks good.
How much we'll give him? It's like, okay, that's a nice outfit. Okay. Anything else?
No, I agree. It's a good outfit.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
For the argument in the middle of the call, you soften and you say, if someone's messing with you, they're messing with me. Why do you do that?
Because at that point, I wanted her to know that, like, I'm on your side. I'm not trying to set you up. I'm not turning anybody in. Like, I know you're innocent. I had nothing to do with this. I know you had nothing to do with it, but I need your help. And that's why I'm calling her, is for help.
At the end of the call, what does she tell you she'll do? What does she tell you to do?
At the end of the call, she says, you call for that number. I'm like, fine, I'll call me. I don't know any of these people. I don't think anyone's going to be afraid of me. But at this point, I don't care. I said, you know what? Let me just call the number. And when I get to the office and I have a break, I'm going to call him.
Now, does she tell you, like she did with Sigfredo on a later call? Does she tell you, make sure you don't call from your cell phone?
No.
Does she tell you, like she did with Sigfredo on a later call, make sure you call from a landline?
No.
And you call from your cell phone, correct?
I did, yes.
Now, before you call from your cell phone, you do *67. Why did you do *67?
In the event that it's a bad guy, I thought it would prevent him from having my cell phone number.
By the way, in DD, when you're going back and forth, because there's some calls between you and her trying to get the number and seeing if there's caller ID at the dental practice, she says to you, you want me to call from my fucking phone? And you say, I can care less where you call from. And she says, exactly. Why do you not care where either of you are calling from?
Because if it's the police, it's fine. I'm worried about if it's not the police.
And why do you think?
I just have to interject because this is why it doesn't make sense. They're going on and on about Charlie realizing it's the police. But the big question is, then why didn't any of you guys go to the police then? Because this guy is claiming he knows someone who is involved in the murder of Dan Markel, who is Charlie's ex-brother-in-law. Any normal person would have contacted the police.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. So it's just ludicrous how they keep thinking that this makes him sound innocent.
Sympathetic,
Yeah.
Someone says, after I watch The Cross, I'll understand why the story is so pathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I think Bill has better things to do but spend like hours of his life watching.
It could be good preparation for criminal procedure.
Yeah.
I can practice some evidence rules.
Yeah. Are you going to do any sort of criminal?
Sliding does have a white collar practice, but I think a lot of corporate white collar practice tends to be pre-litigation. But we do go to trial a lot. We predominantly will be doing commercial cases, but I think I hope to do at least some criminal law in my career. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, hopefully some of this is educational in general.
No, it's good. I'm trying to think about what hearsay exceptions would apply to his bringing in the phone calls. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, isn't it a party admission because that's him on the phone calls? So
I think you would need to use, but he's on his direct, right? If it's party admission, it'll have to be the opposing party, right?
Oh, okay. I don't know. these things typically don't apply to my day-to-day practice of law. Sorry.
Fair enough. I think I was
Making
thinking
me think too much.
I was thinking it could be a state of mind because he's using the phone calls to explain why he did a certain thing and not saying that he's not saying the phone conversations are true. He's saying that because of these phone conversations, because of what Magbanua said, I did XYZ. So that was my thought.
Okay. Well, he's just explaining his side of the story as to why there's certain verbiage being said on these phone calls. Okay, let's go ahead and play it.
Think that it doesn't matter where she calls from.
Because I don't think she's involved in the extortion of me or the murder of Dan Markel.
At 1:51, a minute and 51 seconds into DD. And again, DD is that same morning, April 28th. You say to her, they can listen to whatever conversations they want. You're talking about calling on your phone. Quote, they can listen to whatever conversations they want. Why do you not care about anyone hearing what you're talking about?
Because we weren't involved in a murder. We're trying to figure out who's behind the second extortion and if my family's in any danger. If it's the police, let them listen in. That's fine.
Now I want to play FF, and that's the call to the undercover.
Okay.
Hello. Hola, diga. Hello, diga. Hi, who's this? Who's this? Someone's been calling my family. I'm trying to figure out who this is. In reference to what, man? Someone by the name of Sandy called? Yeah, that's me, man. All right, what's going on? Well, what's going on is my brother Tato. Okay, my brother Tato has not been taken care of. His family's not been taken care of. I talked to a dentist. Why are you calling me? Who are you? I gave the number to a lady. I don't know Tato. You don't know Tato? I'm sure you know Katie and Tuto. They've been taken care of since the family problem been taken care of up north. I don't know who you are. You don't? Well, this isn't going away, my friend, because let me tell you something. I was at Broward with Tato, and he told me the whole story. He told me nobody was taking care of him. Nobody was taking care of his family. The family was taking care of Katie and Tuto, and nothing's been taken care of with Tato. So we know what's going on. And Tato needs to be taken care of. Do the right thing. The lady already has the paperwork. She knows what I'm talking about. We know Katie. We know Tuto. We know they've been taken care of. All right, let me look into things. No more fucking around, man. No more fucking around. This ain't going away. You guys need to do the right thing for Tato. That's my brother, man. That's my brother, and he needs to be taken care of. His family needs to be taken care of, just like Katie and Tuto have been taken care of. I've never met these people, but let me call you back, okay? That's bullshit, man. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know this lady. I don't know your relationship with this lady, but we know what the fuck is going on. This ain't going away. Take care of Tato just like you take care of Katie and Tuto, man.
Now, in hours and hours of The Wire, this is probably the quietest you've ever been. Why?
I was looking to get information from him. I wasn't looking to give him any information about me or anything. He was pretty scary too. I was talking to him on the phone.
Now, when he starts speaking and he says things like in reference to and do the right thing, what did that make you believe?
He sounded educated. He didn't sound like a Latin King gang member.
And after this call, going to GG, you have an 11-minute call with Katie, correct?
I do, yeah.
Now, you're not very good with names, are you?
I'm horrible with names.
So on that 11-minute call, not only do you again get the names Tuto and Tato confused, but now you start calling this undercover, whose name is Simon, right?
Yeah, I changed his name by accident.
Did you do it on purpose to hide anything?
No, I'm just bad with names.
Now, you say to Katie that you told him you don't even know who these people are and you don't know what he's talking about. Why is it important for you to tell Katie that?
Well, because I don't want Katie to think that I'm trying to set her up or set her friends up, and I'm keeping quiet. But at the same time, I'm going to her for help, and I'm letting her know, like, the guy picked up the phone call as soon as I called him.
There's some conversation on this call about her working at the office. Did Katie ever work at your office?
No, never.
So when she brings up on this call working at your office, why do you kind of just say, yeah, you're a great worker at the office, or whatever you say? Why do you not say, Katie, I don't know what you're talking about. You've never worked at the office.
Yeah, if I would have talked bluntly and said you don't work at the office and what the checks were for and that she was cashing them, she would have known I was setting her up or setting her friends up.
You say things on the call like, I might have the wrong Katie. It might be another Katie. Why do you tell her that?
Because when I called her back, she got like really quiet, like almost like she sounded like she wasn't trusting me, and almost like she was suspecting me of trying to set her and her friends up. And that's why I really pushed to say, like, hey, I'm not setting you up, and talk to her like that.
What was all that you cared about at this point in time?
I just wanted the extortion to stop.
And when you say you just wanted the extortion to stop, who were you worried about? What were you worried about?
Well, I was worried that, my parents were really upset. I was worried that my parents were going to go to the police and cash the second extortion, and then or go to the police and end up having to tell them about what happened to me in the first place. And then I was going to have to worry about the original extortion coming after me. And at this point, I know that it involves the head of the Latin Kings and Sigfredo Garcia. I wasn't going to talk to the police.
Okay. So again, why is he talking about Latin Kings? Because the undercover never said Latin Kings. That's just something Charlie's throwing in to make it sound like it's such a scary situation. Plus the fact that he was talking so casually about Sigfredo during that Dolce Vita conversation with Katie. It's just not credible when you know the details behind this. So, any comments?
No, I think based from that, yeah, I think that makes sense. Once again, it's good to have kind of that background that you're giving me, Judy, for the direct. I don't know if I can. Yeah, I don't think I have any additional comments from that little portion of the direct.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we're not going to spend too much time. I know you got to get going, and this is not like your obsession. So, yeah.
No, it was very interesting. I think it's definitely very interesting to kind of. I've read about this case. I have a very broad understanding of what happened. So I think it's, and I always love watching trials to see kind of how different people execute their directs. So I think I might be taking a bit more of a academic approach than some of your viewers who seem a lot more personally invested.
That's fine.
But kind of that's for me. I always enjoy watching different people do different directs in cross-examination for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's why people on YouTube are so fixated on this case, because there are so many different aspects of the case that seem ludicrous, or you find out that this person was lying about this, or there's so many personalities in this case too. Yeah. And to follow up with T. Cancella's comment here, we were noticing that Charlie just kept smiling and trying
That's true. Seemed very smug.
Yeah, he wanted to be so charming to the jury, because he's just so bad with names. That kind of reminded me of how his sister Wendy would testify too. Especially in the previous trial, she constantly smiled and tried to be like, "Oh shucks," like, "What, me, little Miss Innocent, me," and giving doe eyes and stuff. So the two of them do seem pretty similar with the way they present themselves. The more I watch this, so okay. Yeah, this is totally true. Did Katie ever work at your office? No. So that statement's not going to help Donna because she was the one signing those checks, giving payment to her. So yeah, people are saying congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, that's so true, Sandra. The jury can hear the wiretap calls to hear the real Charlie, just like they heard the real Katie and Donna. Because Katie was very foul-mouthed on some of these phone calls that they wiretapped. Fast-talking, arrogant, and confident. The person on the stand is the fake version when you compare and contrast. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Katie sounds like a girl from the hood. The only way he could come close to believing Charlie's lame story is if you have the mental capacity of Forrest Gump. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, talk about, he was complaining that Georgia Cappleman dumbed it down to a third grade level for the dumb jurors. But I think that's also the type of story that Charlie and his attorney were trying to feed people. It's like, if you're as dumb as a third grader, maybe you'd believe it. Yeah. Aw shucks, infuriating covert attempts at control and manipulation. Yeah, thank you, Lisbeth. Okay, yeah, and just to wind things down, because this whole thing lasted a whole day in court, which we don't have the whole day here. So we'll go ahead and take that off the screen. But let's talk about Katie real fast. I mean, Bill, you came here when you said you were 2 years old from China.
3 years old, but yeah,
3 years
basically,
old.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, what do you think about Katie, this Filipino immigrant who became associated with these hitmen and helped to orchestrate the murder of a law professor? I mean, do you have any comments from a Asian American immigrant?
I don't know if this is an Asian American perspective or just a general perspective. I would say try to avoid being involved in gang activity and orchestrating murders, whether of law professors or of anyone else. I would say it's probably, you're probably better off making smarter life choices. So
yeah,
but it looks like she did go to school. She finished college. Apparently. So.
Yeah, that's what we're not sure, because there was some talk about her going to the same, what's it called, Central Florida. Is that what it's called?
UCF?
Central? Yeah, UCF. Yeah. So she went to UCF, which is coincidentally the same college that Charlie went to.
Oh.
They didn't go at the same time. But then she got pregnant with her first child when she was 19. So we're not sure if she finished college, since I interviewed her former best friend.
Oh,
and that person wasn't really sure if Katie actually graduated. Plus, on Katie's meet an inmate description, she said that her education was high school.
Oh.
So that's kind of strange.
They should have listed like some college.
Yeah. Wouldn't she be proud and say she did 2 years in college? I don't know. So we're not sure. Yeah. Seems like you both want to be conspicuously and innocently dumb in non-criminal areas of this trial. Okay, I don't know if this person means us in particular or in general. Okay, both finished college? No, Sigfredo did not go to college from what I recall. Yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty sure Sigfredo did not go to college. In fact, I thought he dropped out of high school. Yeah, but that's what I recall, because I had helped Stephen Epstein review his drafts of his book on the Markel case. So, Sorry, my voice is dying as usual. Okay. It's refreshing to hear your perspective, Bill.
It's great to have just like a large community of folks who follow the trial and talk about it. You've really built like a following all over the country, it seems.
Yeah. So, but getting back to Katie and her being an immigrant from the Philippines, like I'm sure her parents had higher aspirations for her. That's why most people leave these countries to come to America. You don't come here because you want your daughter to meet some thug with a criminal background and then get accidentally pregnant with a kid when she's 19 and she had to quit college, I'm sure. Much less than getting caught up with this egotistical rich guy who tempted her with money to orchestrate a murder. So it's just really, really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think it's sad on many accounts. Obviously, Professor Markel's murder, of course, is also very, very unfortunate, very sad.
Yeah. Katie's mother was a very well-loved nurse, and she had breast cancer, which just ultimately resulted in her death in 2017, soon after Katie was arrested. So, I kind of suspect that all these legal problems and problems that Katie had, financial and with her 2 kids and stuff, really created a lot of extra stress on her poor mom.
So there's a fake gangster, a real gangster culture. Katie was a fool and fell for Charlie's fake gangster routine and led her to prison. I will say he did seem like, at least in the course of the direct, he really toned down the gangster persona. It seems I would not have taken him to be a gangster from the course of his direct, at least.
Who sells marijuana and steroids from his trunk? Yeah.
I thought dentists usually make more money and they don't. Most of them, I think, don't have to sell marijuana and steroids.
But we have heard wiretaps thanks to Fancy Fiction, another YouTuber, where Charlie was talking with people about selling them steroids or getting a bag of marijuana. And Katie and him are talking about the big bag of, what did they call the marijuana? I think they called it bonsai tree.
Oh, interesting.
Where she would be like, I really want a bonsai tree. Anyway, these people are just really weird and strange. And I think Charlie and Katie both had that similar personality trait where they were full of themselves and they thought they could pull one over on other people and get away with things. Yeah, that's so true. A lot of kids affected by this case. Oh, the only way anyone could believe Charlie's story, what if Charlie came across as having a Forrest Gump style cold? Yeah. So he wanted to appear like this innocent, who me? How could I possibly be involved in murdering someone? I'm an upstanding periodontist. Yeah. Charlie keeps lots of guns. He did illegal things. He was a fake gangster. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
This is Katie's mom?
Yeah, Katie's mom died while she was in jail.
Oh.
Yeah, she wasn't allowed to attend that funeral. So, okay. Well, any other parting comments since it's been over an hour?
No, I think it seems like it's a really great community and the channel you've built around the Adelson trial, the Markel trial. I think I know you're about to hit. It looks like you're close to hitting 20,000 subscribers.
Well, 18,600 something, I think. So,
yeah. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. I know the first time I came on, you were probably less than 5,000.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe.
Yeah, that was ages ago.
Yeah.
See, but that was because I was focusing more on law school and the
That's
legal
fair,
profession. Yeah. So it's like, the general public doesn't care that much. Like, how exciting is it?
That's true. You don't want to hear about my Wild West class or anything. So it's but I'm sorry that I'm not as qualified to talk about the Markel trial as I am about the more in the weeds part about the legal profession. But it's been great to become a part of this community as well.
Yeah, and hopefully, if you even have time once you start working, then feel free to come back again. Everybody loves to see a new face.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank
You
you.
know, new commentary. And of course, Bill has a great voice. He's very articulate, whereas my voice is dying and I'm struggling.
It's still a great voice.
Well, it's hard. Yeah. That's why I always try to get guests now, because it's just too hard to just turn on the StreamYard and keep talking for 1 to 2 hours straight. Yeah. Yeah. And the irony of it is that after he kept laying the blame on these evil gangsters and Latin kings, then he had to be moved to South Dakota for his safety.
Witness protection?
Yeah. Well, it's not witness protection, but just because of safety concerns. Yeah. We don't know details, but it could have been that he actually did get threatened when he was in Florida. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. People are begging you, please come back, Bill. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll be involved in some juicy criminal cases of my own.
Yeah. But you can't talk about your cases
until
if you're involved in it directly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys for being there. So we're going to head out to get lunch, and then there's Donna Adelson's hearing at 1 o'clock, which STS, and I'm pretty sure Deep Dive True Crime is also going to be live streaming it. So maybe I'll do some live stream this weekend, especially if I can try to recruit another guest to rehash everything that happened this afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you for having me, Judy.
Best
Really appreciate it.
wishes. So proud of you for graduating, and I'm sure you're going to pass that bar.
I really hope that. We're just studying.
Okay. Reason to get going. Okay. Thank you, guys. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you.